And I still tell my mother I was 6 years old and I got 100 in math and I didn't like blood, and it was decided that I would be an engineer. So, this new generation over here has too many choices, I feel. We didn't have a choice. So I think we had one path and we had no choice but to thread that needle. And we all did. To be fair, we all, I said the one best thing I've said in my entire life, which is I asked him, can it speed up the internet?
So, how do you view the advent of AI, and how do you separate the wheat from the chaff?
And my mother told me that, never ever forget where you came from.
Hi, viewers. My name is Upesh Jain. Greetings from the San Francisco Bay Area. I'm the host of the Exec Talk channel, a forum. I started to talk to CEOs and executives about their journeys and distill their experiences and learnings for our viewers' benefit. It is truly my privilege to be talking to Preetish Nijhawan, a Valley engineer turned VC. Pritish is a well-rounded individual with a keen propensity towards technology and high tech in general. He's always up to speed on the latest tech trends and is a quintessential consumer of information at light speed. Yet he is very matter-of-fact when it comes to conversations and articulates complex issues in a very simple manner. His friendly, easy to talk to, yet passionate demeanor is very appealing to anyone who stands to learn from it. Pritish spent his formative years in Hyderabad, in central India, and went to Hyderabad Public School, which coincidentally is also the school that Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, and Shantanu Narayan, CEO of Adobe, went to. Pritish earned a bachelor's degree in electrical and electronics engineering from the Birla Institute of Technology and Science in Pilani, India, a master's degree in computer engineering from the University of Southern California, after which Pritish worked at Intel in various engineering capacities and quickly pivoted to program management roles, realizing he was naturally attracted to the business and management side. He then went on to get an MBA from MIT Sloan School of Management. And while at MIT, Pritish co-founded Akamai Technologies in 1998, which went public a few years later and exists as a company till date with a revenue close to $4 billion. After graduating, he moved to Houston and advised senior executives in hardware, software, and telecom industries for McKinsey and Company. He also held positions as VP operations of iVita, an asset management software startup he helped found, VP portfolio and program management for BMC Software, VP strategic alliances at NeoEdge Networks, a video game advertising company, eventually becoming CFO for Neon Enterprise Software. Pritish Nijhawan moved back full circle to Silicon Valley, co-founding Cervin Ventures with Neeraj Gupta. As managing director, Pritish serves on the board of several portfolio companies, mentoring and advising their founders. He also meets entrepreneurs for potential investments and builds connections across other venture capital firms, alumni networks, and potential investors. His area of investment focus is the application layer in the IT stack, HR tech, sales and marketing tech, and DevOps tools, amongst others. Pritish is a huge sports buff, and no one can move him from his couch on Sundays. His passion is so intense that he's known to fly across the globe to see key sporting events live or get up in the middle of the night to see matches overseas. In addition, he's an avid reader, a movie aficionado, and as gregarious as one gets. He has a knack of remembering statistics on a variety of topics and is very well traveled across the globe. Pritish, I'd like to extend a warm Exec Talk channel welcome to you. Thank you for taking the time.
Of course, Upesh. I think what he didn't say is that I've known Upesh for 30 years now. And we've been really, really good friends. And it's truly a pleasure to see what you're starting here. And I'm delighted to be a part of it.
Thank you. Thank you, Pritish. So, Pritish, let's start at the beginning, as most interviews do. So, any thoughts on what you wanted to become during your schooling years? How was your early childhood?
I think that I had a great childhood, both in Bombay and Hyderabad. But I still tell my mother I was 6 years old and I got 100 in math and I didn't like blood, and it was decided that I would be an engineer. So I don't think there was any thought given to what any of us wanted back in those days. I think it was the done deal, and I think the net result is why you see so many Indians who've done so well over the years, because all of us pretty much became engineers or doctors for the most part. And after engineering school, many of us came here. So yes, I thought I'd want to be an engineer, but I don't think I had much of a choice.
Okay. Uh, we heard it was quite a rude awakening when you landed at engineering school at BITS Pilani. You were all of a sudden a small fish in a big pond. So how did you take to it, and did you really like engineering?
The answer, Upesh, is no. I never really liked engineering much. I like the math part of it. I did not really, and to be honest, I don't think I was a natural at it. I had to work quite hard even to get a reasonable, GPA back in the day. Um, but it was the best 4 years of my life, right? I mean, I made some amazing friends. Pilani is, for those that don't know, is in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of the Thar Desert in Rajasthan, India, and it does not even have a railway station. It's that small of a town. And so, but I grew up. I guess became a man. I think I majored in alcohol. I mean, I think that was my significant accomplishment, and I did, well enough to make it here to the US. So yes, they were great formative years. But if you ask me, did I learn much about engineering in college in India? The answer is an emphatic no.
Mhm.
Uh,
But
so but, yeah.
but you must have done something right, because you eventually got into USC engineering program with Turby, and you spent a couple of years there. So how was
Yeah,
that experience?
no, I think I test very well. So I had a really good GRE score, and I can just imagine all these universities over here saying, looking at my GPA and the engineering and my GRE score and saying, what's happening here, right? So I think a couple of universities chose to give me a shot, and so I got here, right? So, and a lot of it is my dad. I had admission to the IIMs, and he said, "No way, you have to go to the US." And he had himself done his MBA in 1959, much like your father,
Mhm.
Opish. He came here, in the days when not very many Indians
Mhm.
used to come here, and they went back. So I
Mhm.
think, so I think that was his. It was mainly his prodding
Mhm.
that made me come here, and it was my GRE score, frankly, that got me here.
Okay. So how was your experience at USC? I mean, it was a cultural change. It was probably a change in curriculum and the rigor of it and all that. So,
Yeah, it was I would recommend a US education to anyone. I think because it's not, I would not say it's rigorous, but it's definitely more fun. And I definitely enjoyed the engineering part of it more than I did in India. There's no question about it.
Mhm.
Uh, but it's the immigrant mentality. You don't have a choice. You don't have a backup plan. So,
Failure
there's
is
no
not an option.
failure is not an option, right? There's no money in the bank. You're not going to go back home. That's not an option. So you just make it work. And all of us were in the same position, right?
Mhm.
And USC by itself was nice. It was the middle of downtown LA back in the day. It was not
Mhm.
the safest place in the world.
Mhm.
But it was Los Angeles, and it breezed by. USC has a non-thesis option for masters, so I was done in about 15 months, and I came here in August of '89, and in January of 1991, I started a job at Intel. So, it was a blur. I had
Mhm.
many jobs. I was a TA, I was an RA, all sorts of things, and again, it was you're just thrown into the deep end, right?
Mhm.
And there's not a unique experience to me. It's all of us who came here for a master's from India back then.
Right.
You could not call home. It was, I think, $2.74 for the first minute, if you remember, a page to call
Right.
home.
Yeah.
And so, but it was you had a path and you had to graduate and you had to get a job, and that's all you knew. And I think sometimes, if I might be philosophical for a second, I
Mhm.
think this new generation over here has too many choices. I feel we didn't have a choice, so I think we had
Mhm.
one path and we had no choice but to thread that needle, and we all did. To be fair,
Yeah.
we all.
Yeah, yeah. There weren't too many grooves you could get into. So, yeah,
But this
yeah,
country was amazing to all of us, right? I mean,
yeah,
it gave us that opportunity. There's no
yeah.
question.
Totally, totally. So that was a step forward to achieving the American dream. And at Intel, when the rubber met the road, you pivoted to move to the management side from engineering. So, what was the rationale behind it and the motivation?
Well, again, I was not a very good engineer, frankly. And but I had a boss who's now at Synopsys, a guy,
Mhm.
a gentleman called Siva Yeramili, and maybe he saw, Dilbert wasn't a thing back then, I don't think, but in Dilbert, the least good engineer becomes the manager, and
Mhm.
that was kind of me,
Mhm.
and so he made me a program manager. I think I was one of the first program managers in the history of Intel, and he made me responsible for the entire software suite used to
Mhm.
design the Pentium Pro back in the day.
Mhm.
It was a big responsibility, and I really took to it well. I think I enjoyed management more than coding.
Mhm.
Clearly, I enjoyed herding cats, I guess, because I didn't have any power. This is all dotted lines back in the day, if you remember. And
Yeah.
but it was really an amazing experience, both to sit with the best software engineers at Intel, the best hardware designers at Intel.
Mhm.
Companies back then, Cadence, Synopsys, Mentor Graphics, trying to piece together the best
Mhm.
software solution for Intel. So it
Mhm.
was a unique experience, and that's what I think formulated my decision to apply to business school, as I
Mhm.
decided to more double down on the business management side of things rather than just the pure technology side of
Mhm.
things.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I guess there was a personal loss for you at that time. You lost your father while you were at Intel. And from what I heard, he really wanted you to go to a top-notch business school as well. And so, did that have to do with some of the decision making?
Oh, it was a huge part. I don't think, ironically, he was so keen, and, not to digress too much into the
Mhm.
personal side, but I think 2 weeks in, I think Thanksgiving time of 1992,
Mhm.
he called me and he said, "So what about MBA?" And,
Mhm.
my wife, Shireen, had just was pregnant with Arjun. And I said,
Mhm.
"No, I'm not doing an MBA, I'm becoming
Mhm.
a dad now."
Yeah.
And, like a typical Indian dad, he says, "Son, you've planned your life all wrong."
Mhm.
And I never spoke to him after that. 2 weeks later, I get a call that he's died. He's died in his sleep.
Mhm.
I think
Mhm.
that was a big part of my applying to go to business school. In spite, I had a child. I was 29, so I was
Yeah.
not young.
Yeah,
Uh,
you had a good thing going. I mean, in
yeah.
terms of a cushy job. I mean, not everybody gets a job at Intel, and then with a family on the way. So, but a brave decision, and I guess people say you never looked back, but we'll get into that. So, while at MIT, besides pursuing your MBA in your final semester, you formed Akamai with some other students at MIT. So, how did you go about doing that, and what memories do you have from that time, especially about Danny Lewin, who was the another key guy in the whole thing?
Well, Danny was he and Tom Layton, who's now the CEO of Akamai, were the key, definitely the key guys. And it was again, as I was mentioning, my son was 2 years old when I went to business school. We didn't have any money, so we remember calling up MIT and saying that, listen, we need daycare for our son, and they said, yes, yes, that's $1,000 a month, and we'll just add it to your loan. And I'm like, there's no way. I'm
Mhm.
adding another $24,000 to my loan. I'm already deep in debt because of the tuition. And my wife was a daycare teacher, and so we decided that she would open a daycare in our apartment.
Mhm.
Both we'd make a little bit of money, and Arjun, my son, would have some company. So the first child that came in was this Israeli family, and Itamar, who's now just got married this year. was about a few months old, and his father was doing a PhD at the Laboratory of Computer Science at MIT, which I think is, I would argue, is the hardest place in the world to get into. They get 1,400. They in those days, I don't know now. They got 1,400 applicants, and they took two.
Wow.
I think the lowest IIT JE rank I met there was two. I only met ones and twos. I mean, so it's a crazy place. And in parallel, MIT had this competition called the 50K entrepreneurial competition, and the first prize was $30,000. So I used to keep bugging Donnie. I was like, Donnie, you're brilliant. I'm in business school. We should write something. And if you win 30 grand, you'll get 15,000, and I'll get 15,000, and that was all the money in the world back then. And so it was an erroneous assumption. Life is ironic because that money had to go into the company. It would not come to us, which we did not. When ignorance is bliss, it's folly to be wise, I guess. So then so he said, no, there's no idea, nothing like that. But one day we were all having lunch at a restaurant, which is the inspiration for Cheers, the show, which you and me will remember. The current generation probably doesn't. And he said, by the way, I won the best master's thesis at MIT. Now, I clearly remember this, but Tom, who's the CEO of Akamai, said that he never won the best master's thesis at MIT. But anyway, Donnie, unfortunately, and that story we'll get to later, isn't with us to prove or disprove that fact. But I won't argue with Tom. But I remember this. And so I said, what does it do? And, he said it optimizes the number of hops in an algorithm. And I was spending all my time on the internet back then. And so I probably had the best, I said the one best thing I've said in my entire life, which is I asked him, can it speed up the internet? And it's like a light bulb went off in his head. It was a Saturday afternoon. And he told his wife, you're paying for lunch, Pritish and I are going. I said, where are we going? And he said, we're going to my professor's office. I'm like, it's Saturday afternoon. He said, don't worry. Tom's always working. And we went to Tom's office, and that's when Akamai was born. So that's the story. Complete accident. Just different things coming together.
Lining up the stars almost,
Yeah, it was. I mean, none of this could be planned. None of this was planned.
And the rest is history, as they say.
So changed my life entirely.
Right? So and then you graduated, but you still went on to take up a job at McKinsey in Houston. And when I was introducing you, you bunched at a whole bunch of companies, some formed by you and others. So how did that shape you? And what was missing in Houston, and what brought you back to the Silicon Valley?
Well, I guess I call myself jack of all trades, master of none. I've done everything from entrepreneurship to consulting, been a CFO, been engineering manager, program manager, and now a venture capitalist. But I think Houston was great. It's a wonderful town. It's a great place. But I think there was a part of me that just wanted to move back to the Valley and try to prove myself again, in the center of the universe. So, and there's no doubt that, anybody who doubted if the Valley is the center of the universe, where did OpenAI come from? So in this day and age, so this is still where all the action is, and I just wanted to come back here and kind of prove myself again in some way internally. So once again, a non-intuitive decision. In 2012, I was 45 years old, so you guys can do the math as how old I am now, and my oldest son was going off to high school. I was going off to college, younger son going to 8th grade. And, we moved back here. So, so that was kind of the origin of the decision. There was nothing else apart from me just want to do something. I want to do something in venture. And if I want to do something in venture, this is the place to do it.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it was a great boon to see you back here in the Bay Area. So from that standpoint, selfish standpoint, it was great. But from a work standpoint, you started this VC firm together with Neeraj. And, so what is your philosophy of investing in companies? And what is it about the Valley that differentiates it from the rest of the country and the rest of the world when it comes to investing? And what
So
is
I
your
think, look, it's
to?
the Valley is just it's a unique place. There's no place quite like it. I came in here. I was looking for somewhere to start with. I and Neeraj, actually, ironically, my co-founder, is the one who introduced us, Upesh. So I think Neeraj and I have a similar philosophy of building companies in a very disciplined way.
Mhm,
I've kind of stuck through it even through the craziness of the last 10 years,
mhm,
especially 2019 to 2021, when all discipline was kind of thrown out the window.
mhm,
So I think that's our philosophy, trying to best find the best entrepreneurs in growing spaces and work with them to build enduring companies, right? And I think that's the goal. And ultimately, I think we view ourselves as tough but fair. And I think if we take care of our founders and we take care of the employees of our companies, we'll be just fine. So I think that's what we are constantly looking for. We focused only on enterprise software because that's all Neeraj and I knew.
okay.
We didn't know anything about consumer software or healthcare or about fintech or anything. So I think that or crypto. So we never kind of changed our focus in any way either.
Mhm,
And it's been amazing so far. I think it was another non-intuitive, as I mentioned, but good decision to come back here. And now it's home again.
yeah.
So it's wonderful to be back, and I do not intend to move again, I hope.
Yeah, I hope not. This is where the action is for sure. And, now we're at the cusp of another one, which I'll talk about in a minute. So, what is your advice to budding entrepreneurs, whether you give them capital or not? What do you tell them?
Yeah, what I would tell them is, first of all, entrepreneurship is not sexy. Okay, it's pretends to be,
Hmm.
but it's not. Okay, it's a lot of extremely hard work, very uncertain times, and you can pretty much bid goodbye to the next 3 years of your life if you're
Hmm.
doing a startup and you've taken money from venture. So first of all, you have to be prepared for that.
Hmm.
Number two, it's emotionally it's hard because it's like a sine wave, but with many more bottoms and tops, right?
Hmm.
So there's many more things that go wrong than go right, but you just need a few to go right, right?
Right.
And so and I think that empathy, having done a startup in Akamai that went public, another one that went bankrupt, I've seen both sides.
Hmm. Yeah.
I hope has helped me, and kind of trying to be calm during times of stress. And I think that's very important in an investor.
Hmm.
I'd like to think that both Neeraj and I bring that to the table.
Hmm.
And over time, we've added Shirish Sathe, who was a very accomplished engineer turned VC. We've added
Hmm.
Dan Harp. I think we've added, quite a few people to our team who have the similar ethos, if you will. And
Sure.
so I think, my advice is do something because you believe in it.
Hmm.
Probability adjusted, probably not the best way to make money,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
Probably iBanking is the best way to make money, probably adjusted.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think do it because you love it. Do it because you want to get on this journey with the people around you. Choose the investor that you want to go into battle with, figuratively speaking.
Right.
Uh, and so I think it's do it because you love it. Do it because you want to really create something.
Hmm.
Everything else will follow. But if you're going to do it just for the money, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, you need to have that passion for sure, and the dedication. So like with everything else, VCs come in all shapes and sizes, and you have some of the old marquee names like Sequoia, Mayfield, Khosla Ventures, etc. Is there enough room to coexist, and how do you carve out your own niche?
Well, I think there is. The industry has grown so much, and those guys, they're going to get some amazing founders. But we think that there are many, many founders out there for whom we are really, really good candidates. If you're
Mhm,
looking for building something in the enterprise where people
mhm,
who are focused only on early stage, one of the issues with the bigger VC firms is that they're multi-stage investors, right? So, we are focused very much on the early stage. We give all our time and our resources to helping entrepreneurs build their companies at the very, very beginning. And that's what we really enjoy. And so yes, I think that's why you're seeing so many seed funds out there. And there's not very many seed funds at our size, $150 million plus, now doing just enterprise. There are a few, but not very many. So
Right.
there are many multi-stage funds, of course,
Mhm.
like you mentioned, and they're all
Mhm.
amazing places to go out and get money. And if you get money from there, that's fantastic.
Right.
But I think I'd put us up at the early stage against anyone.
Awesome. Awesome. I mean, whatever works at the end of the day for the entrepreneur, right?
Correct.
Okay. So, in this day and age, every business plan you get probably says Gen AI on it, and I know you invest in enterprise, and some of those business plans probably say Gen AI on it. So how do you view the advent of AI, and how do you separate the wheat from the chaff?
Well, first of all, separating the wheat from the chaff. It's this is a business that's more of an art form than a science.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Most businesses will fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Let's be clear about it. We've had a pretty good track record, but most startups fail. It's just a very hard thing. To answer the hot question of the day about generative AI,
Mm-hmm.
is that it's been a long time coming. These are just the times when the infrastructure, the data, everything is met, and the algorithms, right,
Mm-hmm.
have met, and then in quintessential Silicon Valley style, November 30th, I think, of last year, OpenAI just drops ChatGPT and said, "Here, go, take it,"
Right.
and kind of change everything. So, I think it will change everything, particularly on the enterprise, personally too. But I think when I talk to most people now, their personal use of ChatGPT has decreased since January, February of this year.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but I think on the enterprise, which is where we go, it will change everything. I think the way data is processed, the way it's consumed, the insights that you get across the board will change.
Yeah.
I think the infrastructure layer is the big boy game. I mean, you're seeing OpenAI got 10 billion from Microsoft, and then Anthropic got, first they got 100 billion from Google, then they got 1.5 to 4 billion from Amazon. Now they're getting another 2 billion from Google. So, that's not a game we can play, and nor should we play.
Right.
What we are focused for is what the picks and shovels and the vertical applications around AI, which I think will be plentiful.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and I think this is we're just scratching the surface. However, uh, let us not uh, let us not assume that the incumbents are not going to do much here, right?
Yeah.
So I think this will take time to
Mm-hmm.
develop. We're looking for people who are really proficient in AI and have some unique insight into how they're just going to do their business, as opposed to sending data to ChatGPT and getting it out. Any incumbent can do that, and they have more data than you, so you have to know something more and give something else apart from just a great interface into ChatGPT. So I think so we are looking for those founders who have a unique way of using Gen AI
Mm-hmm.
to change the enterprise, and it's going to happen. But I think it won't happen in the next year or so. It's going to happen in time.
I mean, you remember the days of search, right? And there were so many search companies, AOL, Lexi, this, that, and then the dust settled, and you were left with a handful. And something like that ought to happen at this stage also.
I hope it's like, well, with search we were left with basically one.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remember Lycos and
Mhm.
all of those back in the day, Excite, and finally took the insight of PageRank and at Google that actually changed everything. And now, yeah, I mean, there are other search engines, but even as Satya testified last week, I mean, Google search is just at a different level, right? So I
Mhm.
think I hope there'll be more than one winner in this case, but I think in the picks and shovels, I think there'll be many winners, right? And the middleware area, the data AI pipelines, the security around Gen AI, how are you sending that data back and forth? I think open source language models will be bigger than most people are talking about.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if companies like Pfizer and JP Morgan will send the data to OpenAI or Anthropic
Yeah.
unless convinced of the security. They might just have their own LLMs, hosted by them.
Mhm.
So we will see how this goes, but it's going to be revolutionary. There's no question in my mind. But I think it's still early days. The investing lanes are now becoming clear. We are getting more and more aggressive now. We were not so aggressive in the first half of this year. because it was not so clear to us as to where the value will ultimately reside in this stack. So I think, but I think it's not going away in the enterprise.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning.
We're just scratching the surface, as they say. Yeah. Okay. Shifting gears a little bit, from shop talk, what was the best advice you ever got for yourself? And what advice would you give others, and especially to your kids, and what keeps you grounded in the midst of, all these wins and opportunities and everything?
Yeah, I think the best advice I probably ever got was when and I'll combine that with the grounded. I'd like to think that I've remained grounded in spite of everything. But when Akamai was we went public, right? I pretty much went from 0 to 100 miles per hour in 1 second, right? And and I remember two pieces of advice I got, one from my mother and one from my mother-in-law. And my mother told me that, never ever forget where you came from, right? Never forget how much struggles you had, buying, and this part of that life, that student life when you were in grad school. I used to, if there was a soup for 61 cents or a soup for 64 cents, we'd buy the soup for 61 cents. Right. And then, my mother-in-law told me in Hindi, she says, and I'll translate in English, the fruit, the tree that has more fruit bends more.
True.
Just पेड़ पे ज़्यादा फल होते हैं, ज़्यादा झुकता है. And, I think those pieces of advice were probably the best I've ever gotten. And really helped me to kind of just stay the course and and not fundamentally change who you are, no matter, although it is hard sometimes. I think, and the advice I give my kids is, as they know, is just work hard. Work hard, be good, treat other people the way you want to be treated, and I hope to God they have some of my luck, because I have been lucky. But that's out of my control. But they're good boys, and they have the right values, which largely their mother has given them, and I'm extremely proud of them. So I try not to be in the advice business anymore. I think one of the son is 29.
A double-edged sword.
Or no, they know what I want.
Yeah.
Me telling them again and again is not going to help. So,
Right.
But that's all. I mean, keep it simple, be good.
Yeah.
Right? That's really important.
That's great, Pritish. I mean, quite a journey and tremendous learnings. So thank you, Pritish. I mean, it's been wonderful talking to you. And, I thank you for sparing some time for me.
Of course.
May you go forth and conquer, and your investments,
you too,
dividends. Thank you.
Maybe all be healthy and happy.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, man.
Take care.